Okay, Okay, we are going to kick off. Hello everybody. My name is Ansell-Forsyth, and good evening or good afternoon to you, depending on where you're coming from in the world. We are looking forward to learning a little bit about sleep together today. And I just want to start off by briefly introducing myself over here. So if you see, this is a picture which goes back over 20 years. I managed to resurface this. I am the one with the spiky hair. I used to have those abilities to do spiky hair, and basically, this is me and my brother Andrew, who I'll get to in a second. I do a variety of things, honestly. I've got a psychology background and I do a variety of different mental health work things. I also have a rabbinic and Jewish education career. But what brings us together today is the sleep. And my brother was really the inspiration behind the whole thing. This is my brother Andrew, alav shalom. May he rest in peace. And when I grew up, he was my big brother, and he had, in addition to many learning disabilities and medical complications, he also had terrible sleep. And so this was something which affected the family for many, many years. And the consensus was at the time that there's basically nothing you can really do. It's a byproduct of one or multiple of his conditions. And so that's just something that you have to live with. My mother was not really going to take that so easily because she herself had a psychology background and she knew that there was a little bit more to the story than was being told to her. So she did a whole bunch of research. And the long story short was the outcome of that was the creation of something called Sleep Scotland. That's where I'm from, by the way. I'm originally from Scotland, albeit based currently in Jerusalem. Something called Sleep Scotland, which was the Scotland's oldest organization for dealing with sleep difficulties. And they became kind of the government's go-to over time. And this basically was starting in many ways in the most intense end of things with families of children with learning disabilities who had sleep difficulties, and helping them ended up expanding into working with mainstream, working with teenagers, all different kinds of things. And the Sleep Support Centre, which is the main way, I also did work for Sleep Scotland back in there, but the main thing that I'm doing now is the Sleep Support Centre, which basically is expanding on the work of Sleep Scotland in multiple ways. One is geographically. We are here, not just in Scotland, but some of us, I know a lot of people signed up from the States. Some of us are here in Israel. So on the one hand, we're expanding the work in a geographical sense. And on the other hand, we're also expanding in terms of the scope of the work. So at the moment, we are also once you're in Israel, you have to deal with trauma. Trauma is an issue over here, as it is all over the world, but it's a bigger issue over here than it is in some other places. So we've had to get involved in trauma-informed sleep support. Bereavement is also something which has come in. So a lot of different specialities have also come in along the way, and they are brilliant. And they are a few of the things that we are doing. So we can talk more about that, but that is a brief introduction. Over there, we're also working, very privileged to work with Bar-Ilan University. So there's Professor Jonathan Rabinowitz, who also, I believe, no, Shalom, good evening, I was going to say he's in Beit Shemesh, now I'm questioning that point. But he does amazing work, and he's trying to really get sleep to be a much more talked about and helped issue in Israel. And we're helping him on many of the practical ends. He's coming in with a bit more of the academic background, and I'm coming in with the kind of developing services, making things very, very practical on the ground background. So that is something that we're very, very pleased to work together with. Enough about me for now. Let's talk a little bit about sleep and the biggest misconception, one of the big misconceptions which is out there, is that sleep is something that you have to do. You have to create sleep, so to speak. But the truth is, it's not really like that. Sleep is something that you actually already basically know how to do. Your body is actually quite good at sleeping naturally. Your brain sort of knows what to do. But one of the things that we need to do is create the right conditions for it. And sometimes what we are doing inadvertently is no one's fault necessarily, but what we're doing inadvertently is taking a system which works perfectly well naturally, and we are basically preventing it from working because of all different behaviors that we have, different things that we consume, all different kinds of things. So basically, the beginning and the end of it all is actually all we're really doing is we are enabling a system which works quite well by itself to actually be able to work. Saying that, of course, it is known as probably by anyone on this call that sleep problems exist. There's something like, I think 30 to 40% of Israelis have insomnia. Would meet the criteria for insomnia. It's pretty intense. I haven't looked at the figures in the States. I imagine it's a little bit less, but not too much less than that. So on the one hand, there's a big challenge to deal with. On the other hand, there's so much that we can actually do about it, since all we're really enabling is a system which works already to actually be able to do its work and not, in other words, stand in its way. So maybe just by a quick way of introduction to this section, my aim is basically to talk for, around 30 minutes or so. Obviously, if anyone has any pressing questions, they're always able to ask along the way. Be it you can shout out if you want, you can put in the chat. But I'm hoping to leave a generous amount of time at the end for an open Q&A on different issues which people would like to discuss. So before discussing what we can do to achieve better sleep, it's important to understand a little bit about the backgrounds, because once you'll understand how sleep works from a scientific perspective, you'll see that, actually, there's actually quite a lot we can do about this if we just know how to work with the natural systems. So first things first is that there's something called circadian rhythm, which is basically your internal biological clock. Everyone has a roughly 24-hour internal biological clock. It relates to many things. It relates to hunger and diet and all different kinds of things. But one of the main things it relates to is sleep. We are naturally programmed to have some kind of 24-hour cycle where a certain number of hours of that are sleep, roughly on average. So people are, as it were, programmed to be awake during the day and asleep during a portion of the night. Interestingly enough, there is one exception to this rule, which is, if you actually look at the charts, that if you look on the 24 hours, so the sleepiness, right, is obviously its peak when you are asleep. And then in the morning, so it's coming down, you're waking up. And then there is actually a peak in the middle of the day of sleepiness, which is like around roughly 1 o'clock, something a little bit after lunchtime. And then then you have your second wind, and then you start getting tired again towards nighttime. That's that thing which the idea of feeling a bit tired just after lunch isn't actually a product of, we think sometimes it's a product of the cholent you ate on Shabbat. It is actually a product of your natural cycles to feel a little bit sleepy at that time. But in a general sense, we all have a 24-hour system which is running internally. There are, however, external controls or stimuli which keep the system in check. And these relate to two hormones. One is melatonin. The hormones are internal. The things which keep them in check are external. So melatonin, which is basically your sleepiness hormone. So melatonin is something which is going to be low during the day and is going to increase during the night. And cortisol, which is the stress hormone, is going to do the exact opposite. It's meant to be higher during the day, not to the idea of chronic stress, but the fact that there is activity going on during the day. when it's stimulated during the day. So that is something which is meant to be high-ish during the day, but it's meant to start going down at nighttime. And if you like charts, I like charts. I like to include them. But if you don't like charts, you don't have to look at this. But if you do, then what you'll basically see over here, so the cortisol is up during the day and it's meant to be dipping at night. To the extent that it's dipping down and you're able to fall asleep. At the same time, the melatonin is increasing. So what you basically want in order to initiate sleep, what you need is your cortisol to be going down. You're becoming less stressed and active, and your melatonin to be going up, which is going to be the thing which is going to calm you down. Now, as we mentioned, these are things which work naturally. I'll just give you there's a word. It sounds Yiddish, but it's actually German. It's called Zeitgebers. So Zeitgebers mean time givers. They are the external stimuli which tell your body when to produce, or tell your brain when to produce melatonin and cortisol. So activity and running thoughts are telling your body to produce cortisol. It's obviously a cycle. And light is the thing which is going to determine whether you produce melatonin or not. In other words, if you start calming down during the evening time, then your cortisol is going to go down. And if you enter a darker space and you dim the lights and things like that, then your melatonin is going to be going up, because light is something which prevents the production of melatonin. So that's the dream, is that you are, so to speak, is that you're moving towards a calmer state during the night, and the lights are going down just as they would in the olden days. It's just the sun is set in the background of this very session. So that's what it was in the olden days. They didn't have as many artificial things as we do. So just imagine how it would work is that the sun would go down, things would become darker, your melatonin starts increasing. You stop doing what you're doing. I'll give a South African on the call. I'll just give a shout out to South Africa. One time, the only time I experienced this was when I was touring in a place called Valley of a Thousand Hills, which is in a region of South Africa, and they have a little bit of electricity, but not so much. And you really see there, basically, there's nothing really going on during the night. Activity stops, so your cortisol is going down, and you can see already here how there is a natural mechanism whereby sleep is going to come in not such a difficult way. And you can also see why there may be many things that we could do which could get in the way of that. I'm just going to jump to the chat. This slide is too difficult to read. Can you augment it? Yeah. Elizabeth, did this explain the slide for you? Okay, great. Thanks. So this is the idea. We have natural mechanisms, internal mechanisms, which are affected by certain things which are going on the outside. We want melatonin to go up, cortisol to go down. And that is basically the system. Now, with that, what we want to get to is 5 evidence-based principles which are going to enable us to make basically a huge difference in terms of our sleep. I'm just going to open things up just for 1 second. I just want to ask you if anyone wants to say, are you here for yourself? Are you here for clients that you work with? Are you here because this is interesting to you? Feel free anyone to write in the chat or shout out. But sleep can be interesting to a variety of people for all kinds of different reasons. So this is going to help us. Okay, so both is a good answer. It's always good to have experienced something in order to be able to help others with that thing. So that basically will cover us because that is what the different people who are coming, I think, are coming partial, sometimes for themselves, sometimes for others, sometimes a little bit of both. So bearing all this in mind, this is something that we can bear in mind, both to help ourselves and to help others. Okay, so 5 principles coming up. Okay, number 1 is, as we introduced briefly before, light tells your brain the time. So basically the way that it works is that your brain wants to go to sleep at night. It wants to go to sleep. But how does it know when it is night? So it knows when it's night because of light. So what do we want to do according to this? So one thing that it's important to do is to get a bit of daylight during the day. You don't necessarily have to stand actually in the sun, but to have at least half an hour of exposure to natural light is something which is really important because you need your body, you need to work with your circadian rhythms to tell it, okay, now it's daytime. Uh, Moving to the other end of the day, we need to be going into slightly darker environments as we are hoping to move towards sleep. Because otherwise your brain doesn't know. Your brain thinks it's meant, if you stay in the lights, you've got lights in your room, you're on a computer, you've all kinds of different things. So your brain is ready to stay awake a bit longer because it doesn't really know that it's nighttime. So that's something that we want to do. And as I had mentioned over there, screens are kind of the enemy of the sleep science world. Not really. During the day, use screens as much as you want. As much as you think is healthy for other parts of your mental health. But screens mimic sunlight because phone screens, computer screens, etc., have a blue tinted light that mimics sunlight. It tells your brain that it's daytime. So what do people typically do before the moment they go to sleep? So they're on their phone. So this is something which is working against their natural system. They're telling their brain it's time to be awake. There have been, probably people are familiar, there have been different systems which have introduced night modes on computer screens, on phones. This helps a little bit, but it doesn't do the whole job because, number one, still some blue light comes through. You see that it tints yellow, so it's got the right idea. So, but nevertheless, it doesn't take away the blue light completely. Moreover, what people are doing on their phones, computers is something which is often stimulating. So then your cortisol is still up. So that's not really helping anyone. So screens, we really want to be, ideally an hour, minimum half an hour, but ideally an hour before the time that you hope to go to sleep should really be phone off. This is a game changer. Okay. This is point number one. So the point number one is working with light. Point number two is consistency versus catch-up sleep, right? So what people often do is they work themselves to the bone during the week and then hope to catch up on weekends or Shabbat, depending on your particular time and place. The problem is, number one, you'll basically never manage because the sleep debt that people are building up during the week is often impossible to regain on the weekend. But moreover, what it does is it kind of messes up your entire system because as we said, you have a 24-hour circadian rhythm. Your body wants to be awake during the day and asleep during the night. If you take a big, sorry to be very unpopular. If you take a big afternoon sleep on Shabbats, right? It's going to be very, very hard for you to sleep well on Saturday night. And, especially it's even harder in Israel because in Israel, the work week begins on Sunday. So basically we begin the week on the day, which is meant to be the day of rest, right? We begin the week exhausted, right? So this happens to a lot of people. I used to work in yeshiva, and we were really trying to help the guys throughout the week. And basically every week we had to start again because they slept late. They slept a lot on Shabbat. They didn't sleep on Saturday night and they were exhausted the next day. And basically we had to start our work with them every single week. It was like beginning again. So it was very tough. So what is the ideal? The ideal is consistency. It's to try and wake up at pretty much the same time every day. I try and go to bed at pretty much the same time every day. And be aware that if you shift that at all, it takes time to shift back. It's a bit like jet lag. It takes time. So if you've shifted on the weekend, if you shifted your body clock a couple of hours later, just be aware that it's going to take you that time to catch up. So that's your choice, really. So that is something that we want to be aware of. The consistency is going to be very, very helpful over here. Okay, that's point number two. Thanks. Thanks. I'm just getting the message through. So interested to help insomniacs and share ideas with others, as well as help my own brain. Right. relate to the evening and promote better sleep. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so this is it. This is really it. So all this is basically going to be things as we'll see, which can help people across the spectrum, from people who have diagnosed chronic insomnia all the way to people who are having minor challenges. The principles are the same. The application changes, the principles remain the same. So this is point number 2. Okay. Point number 3. Okay, so the third point is about protecting your sleep pressure. Now, your sleep pressure means that the longer you are awake, the more your body will want to go to sleep. So this is we talked a little bit about this also already in terms of naps. So if you're taking a nap during the day, just be aware. I haven't checked this figure, but I heard a sleep expert say once that every hour that you nap during the afternoon, so you can expect your sleep to be pushed off 2 hours at night. I think these things usually depend on people, but if you want to fall asleep at night, you got to be careful with napping during the day. In terms of caffeine intake, let me just be specific about that. To nap 20 minutes at 12 or 1 is basically fine. To nap more or later than that is something which can cause challenges. In terms of caffeine intake, that's something which one should be really decreasing from kind of after lunchtime, certainly the evening. I will say that a lot of people can kind of do all these things and they're fine. It's a little bit like I used to be in terms of eating, right? So I used to be able to eat whatever I wanted when I was in my younger years, and I was fine. I didn't put on any weight. So there are some people like that. There's some people who can do all the wrong things and they're fine. But if a person is experiencing some kind of sleep difficulties, if their quality of life is affected by not sleeping as much or as well as they would like to, then you kind of have to do everything right. So it's important to be aware nap times are a challenge to healthy sleep. Caffeine is later in the day is a challenge to healthy sleep. Okay, so that's number 3. Number 4 is calm the mind. So we talked a little bit about this before, that one of the things that is affecting your sleep is cortisol is a stress hormone. That is something which is naturally meant to go down during the night. For some people, it's remaining a bit higher. You've got something on your mind. You've consciously got it on your mind, or you don't really know exactly what's going on, but you know that you're feeling alert for one reason or another. So what we want to do is we want to be moving towards a calmer state. And so the main way to do this is to have a wind down routine, which again, you could start, let's say, the hour before you intend to go to sleep. And you basically start doing boring stuff, right? You can, at that time, baths are the best. Not everyone has a bath. A shower is okay, but it's a little bit stimulating. But baths are amazing for this. Reading a book, which is not that interesting, meaning there's some people who can read and it doesn't matter how interesting it is, they will still fall asleep. That is me, right? But some people can read all night. I can never do that. But if you can read all night, then just have to be checking that you're not just getting yourself into something which is also stimulating for you, but reading, going to dimmer light, again, phones off really from minimum half an hour before sleep, if not longer. And you see the shape of your day is, there's an action mode, and then you should be moving to a calmer passive mode. So that is basically the general thing. Specifically, some people may require certain extra relaxation techniques, like active things that you can do. There's breathing exercises you can do. There are, if you've got, for example, worries on your mind, it's a very good idea to write them down. In whichever way you want. You can do a journaling thing, you can do a story thing. Even a list actually makes quite a big difference, because usually, almost always, the objective number and magnitude of things that you're worried about is less on paper than it is in your head. Meaning, is once it's in your head, it's kind of infinite. But once you start to put them down on paper, you realize that they're finite. That's something which can, it's not about taking away the thoughts entirely, but it's about you having a certain um, control over them, as opposed to them having a control over you. So that's something, be it the general routine and also the relaxation techniques. So that's something to bear in mind. And finally, over here, the idea of don't fight too hard. This is very interesting because it's a bit counterintuitive. But one would think, okay, I want to sleep now. Let's go sleep. And you're in your bed and you're awake for a long time. Got to push through. It's not actually the way that it works, interestingly enough. Number one is interesting. I was giving a session. So there's something very interesting if people have come across called MBChB. It's the Israeli Psychotrauma Center, and they give an annual course on trauma and related things. So I was teaching the sleep component of this course, and they have people from around the world. So they had people from Australia, where sleep has been integrated a bit more into like the curriculum and things like that. But one thing which happens is on the other end, people become stressed about not having enough sleep. So that's also not going to be helpful as well. So we're saying sleep is very important, but if you're not getting enough sleep, so the one thing that you don't want to do is catastrophize about not getting enough sleep, because it's number one, it's not going to calm you down. It's not going to help you get to sleep tonight. And also sleep perception is also something very important in addition to the objective sleep quality. So basically it does make a difference how you feel about your sleep. So number one, if you have a rough night, it's okay. Like that happens. You will be okay. Moreover, there's something called stimulus control, which I won't go into so much because it's a very specific technique. But the idea is if you're failing to fall asleep for 20 minutes, half an hour, it's just not happening. So the idea is actually you actually should get out of bed, and you should do something which again is boring in low lights until you feel sleepy. And then when you're sleepy, go back to bed, because otherwise what you're doing is you're training your brain to associate your bed with being awake. You don't want to do that. You want to associate your bed with being asleep. So that's one of the things that you want to do is there is a time and a place to actually get out of bed. Again, don't go on your phone. That's not going to help. That's going to hurt. But to do something which is low key and low light is something which can actually help you a lot. So these are the 5 things. Let's just quickly recap those again for a second. So light, we want to be moving into a darker environment towards sleep. Consistency, try and keep the same wake and sleep times as much as possible. Sleep pressure, try to avoid long naps during the day, caffeine too late. Calm the mind, have a wind down routine, maybe even relaxation techniques, and don't fight too hard. There is a time and a place for understanding that you won't get to sleep this minute, and that's also okay. So these are really the big things, and this is really the main takeaway that I just want to give you is that chronic insomnia, we think that insomnia is a condition where people can't sleep. It's not really true. It's that insomnia, the diagnosis is based on a description of past behavior. Past life occurrences. So it's true that people haven't slept well, but it doesn't mean they can't sleep well. And the vast majority of the time, people, through some of the approaches that we've been talking about, there's a lot more, but some of the approaches that we've been talking about, these behavioral approaches, are basically able to essentially solve or at least significantly improve their sleep difficulties, which makes all the difference in the world. Maybe I'll just make one final point on that, which is that improvement is also important. Meaning, just because, let's say, 8 hours is an average, we'll talk about that in a second. Let's say 8 hours is an average. So what if you're getting 4 hours? Is there any point in trying to get 5 hours? The answer is yes. It's going to make a massive difference. It's going to make a difference to your physical health. It's going to make a difference to your emotional health. It's going to make a difference to your concentration. It can make a difference for relationships. It can make a difference for all kinds of things. even if it only makes you 20% better, 20% better is unbelievable, can be day and night. So we're not always shooting for perfection, but we are shooting for improvement, and that is achieved in basically almost all of the cases. So this is basically that. So I have this little myth thing. Maybe I'll just go through it very, very briefly, just for fun. So a lot of these are things that people think and they sound right, but they're actually incorrect. So alcohol helps you sleep. Does alcohol help you sleep? No, alcohol is a sedative. It helps you be not awake. But in sleep, there's all kinds of brain processes which are going on, and alcohol actually disrupts those. So you may wake early, you may not have a quality of sleep. That's something which is really important. Melatonin is a sleeping pill. Incorrect. Melatonin, people take melatonin. What they're actually doing, if you notice that we said what needs to happen is melatonin needs to go up, yes, but cortisol needs to come down. So if you just take melatonin and you keep your cortisol up, all you're doing is creating an internal conflict inside your body. That's not healthy. It may not practically help. Also, if you do want to take melatonin, you have to. There's all different kinds of details that you need to know about the times of day. It should really be with a big discussion with a professional, exactly about how one would take melatonin. Usually, once you do these things, you don't need to take it at all. Number three, everyone needs exactly 8 hours. This is not true. It's an average. On average, adults need 8 hours sleep. Some people need less. Some people need more. Teenagers, for example, on average require 9.25 hours, which you can see why this is very challenging because teenagers are often getting less sleep. They actually require more sleep biologically to have a healthy daytime. We can catch up, fixes sleep debt. We've already discussed you won't manage. And five, this is a really important point, that other mental health problems must be solved first. This is something which I heard from a social worker. It's actually not, meaning there's many mental health issues which are associated with poor sleep or insomnia or sleep difficulties. What is actually the evidence actually shows that to have sleep support alongside their mainstream treatment for trauma or anxiety disorder or whatever it is, as a supplementary treatment can actually help them not only with their sleep, but can also help them with their therapy or treatment for their main disorder as well. So if someone has other issues as well, it is not necessarily a reason to refrain from trying to deal with the sleep as well. So this, I think, is basically what I wanted to share with you tonight. You can see, sometimes what we've said is enough. Sometimes people need to seek a little bit more. If the sleep problems are persistent, if they're a bit complex, they're tied up with other mental health issues, if it's affecting your quality of life. The important thing about sleep counseling or sleep coaching is that you have someone to take you through it. So a lot of people, they've tried everything, but they didn't have someone to help them through the process. They didn't know how long to try everything for. They may be doing some things which are helpful for them at the same time as some things which are harmful for them. So to have someone who's going to hold your hand through the journey is something which people can benefit from a lot. As I mentioned before, what do we do? What do I do? So there's individual sleep counseling. That's one thing, but additionally, there's also professional training. So if you are a therapist, for example, or you are a social worker, or you are a medical doctor, or all different kinds of things. So sleep knowledge can help you a lot in your own domain. You can also you can be certified as a sleep counselor as well. That's a higher level. But these are things that we do at the Sleep Support Center, working with different ages and stages, also working with organizations, schools. So if these are things which are helpful to you, I'm happy to discuss those. This is the end of our story for now, which is that basically the good news is it's a message of hope, is that basically our brain, the vast majority of the time, 95+% of the time, actually knows exactly how to sleep. What we need to do is just enable it, as opposed to stand in its way. So that is what we have to say for today. I'll leave that up a little bit, but say over to you for the meantime. Are there particular points, either in the presentation or otherwise, which you'd like to ask about, which you'd like to comment about, any things which are interesting, which don't fit with what you know. Um, so so in the meantime, so I'll tell you, I'll guide you if anyone feels that they'd like to uh speak up, they certainly can. In the meantime, let me just take you just through these a little bit, through these links a little bit. So here over here is the Sleep Support Center. Let's see if I can share this for you. Okay. Okay. So let's see how this works. So anyway, this is the website for the Sleep Support Center. Okay, so let me give you that. So I'll just say you can look at these if you like. Basically, Sleep Support Center is, as I mentioned, is what is me and us and what we do. And Better Sleep is the Barryland project that we're a part of. And if you want to get in touch with me, the easiest way to do it is just to jump on the just my personal website, and you can just book a meeting. For free, and we can speak about yourself, organizations, clients that you're working with, any of that. But so let's just talk about the question. So Elizabeth asked, what about waking up during the night? Right. So that's something which is really important. There are the two main things that we're dealing with in terms of sleep difficulties and insomnia. One is something called sleep initiation, which we've mostly talked about tonight. That means getting to sleep in the first place. But there is a second significant point, which is about sleep maintenance. Are you able to stay asleep? So that is an equally large challenge that we need to think about. Now, the good news is, I usually show a chart of this, but if you actually look, there's something called a hypnogram, which basically charts what sleep looks like, so to speak. And there's different stages of sleep. A lot of people are familiar with REM sleep, with rapid eye movement, but there's actually four main stages of sleep. And these stages are cyclical. So around every 90 minutes or so. So we go through a cycle, and we usually wake up for a short amount of time in between cycles, so that someone can have, 3, 4 occasions. No, this is typical healthy sleep. 3, 4 occasions of night waking. That's something which can exist. Which I would say does exist in the normal case. So the first thing to know is that everyone actually wakes during the night. That's the first and most important thing to know. The question is, what do we do when we wake up? Such that sometimes things that we do, and again, it's not always our fault because we don't know. So we think, oh, I'm waking up now, I'm not going to be able to get back to sleep. And then we start sort of going, or, the devil, of course, the phones, people look at their phones. That's something which can keep you awake. So if you wake up for a short amount of time and you go back to sleep again, that doesn't really disrupt the quality of your sleep at all. That's actually normal. But if one wakes up and then they're staying awake for a long time, it can break up the it's not the main thing to do when waking at night is basically a miniature version of everything that we've said, which is to number one, know that it's normal. So don't worry. You woke up. It's okay. That's a normal thing to happen during the night. That's typical. Especially people of different ages and stages. So there are people who are waking up to the bathroom a few times during the night. There's nothing wrong with that. That's totally fine. So that's the first thing to bear in mind is normalization. It's fine. Second thing is just to make sure to not do something which is going to maintain your state of being awake for longer than it needs to be. So don't go on the phone. Try not to, if you're really, really thirsty, you can have a drink. Try not to eat. Ideally, it's all these things. Then you're getting your digestive system going. It's something which is difficult. Try not to go out into a light room. Because these are all things which are going to wake you up, even though you're in a state of healthy wake, but they could get you to a state of unhealthy wake. If you are really staying in bed and it's just been half an hour and just nothing's happening, then you can do what we said before, which is the stimulus control, which is you can go out of bed but make sure to go into a dark room and do something very boring. And when you feel sleepy, then you can go back to bed. And that is the world of difference between waking up during the night and catastrophizing, worrying, and staying awake for an hour and the whole thing's that versus, you're awake for 20 minutes, you're doing everything right, you can't get to sleep. You read a book, you go to a dark room, darkish, you read a book under a dim yellow light for 10 minutes and you're back to sleep. That's a huge difference for your quality and continuity of sleep. So that's the main advice there. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Any other before we go? Time for one more question? Um, okay. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Very nice to meet you and to speak to you and to learn together with you. As I mentioned, these links, you're welcome to browse them. And if you want to speak to me more, I think a lot of you will have received an email from me, depending on the time that you signed up. So you're welcome to drop me an email. You can also go into the therapy.revising.com website and book a conversation, and would be very glad to speak to anyone more about sleep. That's what I do. So in the meantime, have a great night for Israelis. Have a great day for people in other parts of the world, and all the best. Thank you.